This vlog is the story of my recent experience with a really cool new bike. As many of you know, I've got a long-standing relationship with the brand Ibis Cycles. In fact, I worked there from 2008 to 2015. 1,600 miles to go. This video is part 3 in my 3-video sponsorship deal with them for 2020, and currently I don't have a new deal with Ibis for 2021.
Like a whole bunch of crashed cars.
Phones right there. While I might not be formally sponsored by Ibis anymore, don't expect to see their bikes leave my channel entirely. I still have quite a few here, and I definitely enjoy riding them, so you'll see them in the mix. This story here is about the new Ripley AF. Now, the circumstances for receiving this new bike were a little bit unique. You see, my family's lucky enough to have access to a family vacation home in Arizona.
Funny house.
Aww. Hi.
You made it.
Quite the adventure, yeah.
In Arizona.
I did not expect the new Ripley AF to be ready for me to actually receive on this trip, so I was a little unprepared for all this.
Pedal, pedal, pedal! You did it! Lena, you made every single jump! No. Looks like everything's right.
Thank goodness there's a lot of trail accessible from the house. However, if I had a second vehicle, there would be a lot more single-track miles accessible for these morning rides. One day, while editing some ride vlogs, I got pretty bored and did what everyone does when they get bored. I opened up a new tab, popped up Craigslist, and started searching for motorcycles. Lo and behold, I saw a DRZ 400 listed for about half their asking price here in Washington State. Nice to meet you. You too. Ooh, 26,000 miles. I don't want to insult you, but I was thinking something like 1,700 bucks, and I'll take it home right now.
Yeah, I think 1,700, but...
Like any grown man who's just made a questionable purchase, I did my best to take this thing apart and go on through it. Using my vacuum bleeder. It was a stuck piston in the master cylinder. Great. Quickly realized I need a bike rack to get to the trailhead, so I started grabbing some 2x6s, scraps of 2x4, some angle iron, and the requisite milk crate, and got to work. Before I had more than a couple days to enjoy this new questionable purchase, I was lucky enough to receive a box from my pals down in Santa Cruz from Ibis Cycles. Today a new bike just arrived. Let's go get a look. Do you want to help, Evelina? Let's open it right in front of the other bikes. More bikes, more likes. Pull it on over. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, are you excited?
Yes.
Ooh. Whoa! Well, what do you think about this, Evelina? Oh, look at that. Do you really want to hand a one-of-a-kind pre-production prototype bike to a 4-year-old? Well, it's aluminum, it'll be okay. Look at this. This thing's rad. Look at that.
Hi, how are you?
Dude, this thing's sweet. So this is the new Ripley AF 120mm travel booster axle, clevis mounted shock. It looks like the lower link is the same bushing style lower link that the Ripmos use, and that's been pretty solid. I get about a year out of those till I got to deal with them. I just throw in a new one. I think you can do something else and get just bushings. I don't know. No, I don't have a stand here for working on bikes. Hi. I don't have my headset pressed. Steve is at Costco. I was gonna use his. Dang. That worked good. Okay, one down, one to go. Fox was nice enough to supply 34 Grip 2 140 fork for this build. I'll run the stock shock for now. I'm gonna try some DVO stuff as well. All over Arizona, Washington, there's tons of trails, lots of hikers. And you can totally announce your presence in a friendly way with a little bell. What sounds nicer? Hey you! Or recycle. I did forget. For those of you lucky enough to have a family at home, you're probably well aware that sneaking out before dawn for some early morning solo parent time is a pretty treasured thing. An adventure I'd always wanted to do was to ride over to Prescott, Arizona, where there's some really cool granite rock formations. It's worth mentioning that I do have a pretty extensive dirt biking background. That said, I rarely ever ride a motorcycle on the street. However, I would like to get my bike rack a little bit more dialed so I could actually make a dirt-worthy motorcycle-bicycle combination. That should make for some cool backcountry missions next summer. I really enjoyed riding the Ripley in more trials-y type situations. I think a big part of that is because the bike has a pretty short wheelbase in comparison to the longer traveled enduro bikes I've mostly been riding this past winter. Not that the Ripley can't handle some more enduro style riding, but with a 140 fork, 120 rear, it's so easy to get off the ground and pop around with that it just made me want to try some funky little trials lines. I don't have much of a trials background, though I did compete in beginner and a few sport level trials events when I was a kid in my middle school years. I haven't really touched trials since then, but just the basics in a really cool spot are kind of fun to do. I do have much more of a BMX background, but my main bread and butter has always been mountain bikes.
Kind of surprised myself with how well it worked.
This line's really cool. I'm not very good at that jumping to the rear tire type thing, but it has a natural skinny. Check that thing out. Oh, that's right. I should probably get back to reviewing this bike. So, this is a 29er, but at the same time, it's pretty short travel, and I found myself having a lot of fun at the pump track. If your bread and butter is pump track riding, you should probably look for something more purpose-built, but if you end up at a pump track on your Ripley, you can still have a good time. On a shorter travel bike like the Ripley, I found it's best to pop through this stuff rather than monster truck through it.
Gotta slow down a little for the off camber.
Shorter travel bikes are fun because they're easy to get in the air in the first place, and that's simply because they're not stuck to the ground with a ton of sag. One thing I did like about this bike was a really slack head tube angle, so even though it was a short wheelbase, the slack head angle made up for that a bit. With this bike being so much shorter than the other bikes I've been riding recently, these switchbacks were a breeze to get through.
There's the...
One thing I noticed about the Ripley is that with the overall shorter length and the smaller amount of suspension, there were more available landings on the trail, which meant every time I hit one of these little poppers, it was more likely that I could land on a bit of a downslope. My aging back really liked that. With my leaned over cornering style, I could still get through turns well on the Ripley, but I found myself needing to turn the handlebars a little bit more than I've been used to.
Okay. Oh! Stoked! All right. That was a lot of hops. Okay. Oh. This section's a little tricky. A little bit of a step up. There we go. Now here, I catch my breath.
One of my favorite things to do in all of mountain biking is to focus on really funky technical climbs.
Okay, rock slab, here we go.
This one here is a great example of that, and I was able to get up most of them on the Ripley. Ironically enough, a long travel enduro bike is usually easier in these technical battles than the more cross-country oriented short travel bikes.
Yes!
When was the last time you played a game of low stakes limbo? It's super fun and I recommend it. Oh yeah, so back to the bike on hand. I took the Ripley down to Phoenix's famous South Mountain, one of my all-time favorite riding locations in the world. Seriously. After about an hour, I was finally able to make it up the waterfall. Thanks to Kyle for filming and to everyone who was there and cheered me on. Their encouragement helped a ton. South Mountain is home to some absolutely rugged, wild descents. I was able to get down this stuff somewhat comfortably on the Ripley, but it's not really built for hairball stuff like this. The slack head angle means you have quite a bit of security, but as things get really dicey, you could use something a little bit longer in the wheelbase department. Of course, the downside is then you lose some of that agility that makes the thing so fun. I've noticed that with the shorter travel Ibis bikes, I should probably go for a size large rather than a size medium if it was going to be my one and only mountain bike. For reference, I'm 5'8", about 174 centimeters tall.
This way.
On the longer travel bikes, like the Ripmo and the HD5, I pretty comfortably ride a size medium. This test Ripley here is indeed a size medium.
Pretty cool bike.
Well, now I've been riding this Ripley AF for over a month, and I'm back home in Bellingham, Washington again. Here in Bellingham, our trails are predominantly fast, flow trails that are very heavily man-made with berms and jumps.
Oh, bottom out.
Back in Arizona, the size medium Ripley with the Ibis light tune rear shock and the generally stock Fox 34 Grip 2 damper fork, the bike felt pretty darn dialed in. It worked on many of the technical trails. Back in Bellingham, the higher average trail speeds meant I was looking for a little bit more bottoming resistance, so I threw a 0.8 volume reducer into the rear shock and added another volume reducing token to the fork.
Sweet.
This had the bike feeling a lot more confident on these flow trails.
That's okay.
With the higher trail speeds, I really wish I did have a size large rather than the medium. I'm looking forward to trying this DVO stuff, as the DVO fork is a little bit burlier of a fork than the Fox 34. Keep in mind, my regular bikes are 145 to 160 travel enduro bikes with real long wheelbases. My riding style is not very normal. I'm actually a terrible bike reviewer, as I don't really ride like the vast majority of people, and I just focus all of my time and energy into riding some of the best trails North America has to offer. If you don't ride in places that are quite this steep or technical, then a lot of what I say really doesn't matter so much. But who cares about all that? We're watching videos like this just to enjoy ourselves, learn something new, and just kick it. Well, with that, I'm gonna sign off, so thanks for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you on the trails. Peace.
Maples lose their leaves. Makes a big difference because their leaves are huge.